you can definitely make your performance a little bit more like, I don't know, consistent. Like there won't be as many spikes if you decide to make everything really evenly distributed in terms of texture density. So you can find out about that in this tutorial here. I think it's on the second page. Yeah. See, they're talking about how an even distribution is much better than this. Non-uniform textile densities will create visual artifacts on certain platforms. Blah, blah, blah. It's talking about how it will be a fill-bound mesh on the left. Basically, it will take longer to display the textures if it's like this. So, alright. So a really good way to make sure that your texture density is really even is using this in my automatic mapping. It's really handy. Basically, it does 6 planes of projection, so like basically the 6 planes of a box coming in on the object, and depending on the angle of the polygons that it's picking up, then it will place them together in one chunk basically. So let's apply that and see what we got. So this looks alright. These floating pieces are kind of weird. We'll definitely have to merge those into the map later. But outside of that, it looks fine. But definitely one thing that they talk about in the optimization guide as well is that you should avoid having splits in UVs. So you want to heal together your UV chunks as much as you possibly can before it starts to get really distorted. Um, yeah, it's much better to avoid UV splits. So let's go ahead and do that. For that process, I'm just going to assume that you guys know how to do it, heal together your pieces. But I'm going to do it in XSI because I find it to be very quick in there. 3D Max is also good. So it's whatever floats your boat basically, and Maya is kind of slow for me, so I'm just going to jump over to XSI really quick. We've got our UV layout done. So once you have all of your pieces healed together into one giant chunk, or as big of chunks as you can, then I'll show you a trick in Max that's really helpful. Alright, so I'm back in Max here, and I've already modeled the entire set of vents and this other fan, and I've actually UV'd most of it. Like it's all healed together in chunks, but then I attached all these different objects together, and each one of them, their UVs are sized somewhat differently. And so a really good way to basically figure out what the heck's going on is opening it up in Max, going here into the material editor by pressing M, and going to diffuse and then clicking this little button. Basically it'll bring up that dialog and you can click checker. Then once that's up, change the tiling to about 20, I'm guessing. And whoops, totally screwed up here. Bring back up the material editor and go up back to your material and assign it to these pieces. If they're selected, then you can click that to assign it. Alright, after that, then click this checkered square, and that will actually display the texture on the model. in the viewport. And yeah, basically we can check out to make sure the size of our UVs are correct and make sure that it's very evenly distributed like this. So obviously things are not quite right. Let's go in and edit things a little bit. Looks like our pieces are all scattered around. It's looking like this. Looks like this piece is actually okay. It's just like this one is scaled way off from this and this and that. So I'm gonna scale that bad boy down a little bit. Yeah, scale it down. Then you can kind of match up the square size, hopefully. That's pretty much the goal here. So yeah, that's about right. So now that we have all of our pieces kind of on the same scale, it kind of looks like this one's a little bit large. Oops. Scale that down just a little bit more. Alright, that looks good. Alright, so now we've got all these chunks like all over the place, and here's an awesome trick. I had no idea about this until recently, but I'm sure some people have known about this for ages. Anyway, you go to Tools, Pack UVs. This thing is awesome. Check this box, rotate clusters, fill holes, and you'll have to adjust this number to something like that. And you press OK, and it puts it all right nice and neatly, tightly into the square that you need it to be in. It's awesome. It's not perfect, so you might have to do a bit of adjusting, but it's really nice because that number you're adjusting is the distance that it will try and get your pieces to be separated apart. So yeah, you'll probably have to adjust that, and you don't want your pieces too close together that you'll get problems with the bitmaps, but you want it close enough that it's, you're making good use of your textures. So there you go.